Hey, everybody, welcome back. It is the Razzball Fantasy Baseball Podcast. I am Beat On, joined by the handsome mustachioed man across from me, Gray Albright. How you doing over there, Gray?
Oh, B-Don. Sweet, sweet B-Don. Come on, man. Give me more compliments. Like, come on, me.
That wasn't enough.
B-Don.
I'm in recovery mode, Gray. Like one compliment is all you're getting today. I'll make up for it next week when I'm not in festival recovery mode today.
Oh, you hit a musical festival this weekend, huh?
Yes, I did, which means lots of standing in one place and lots of drinking and whatever else was around. So yes, it was a rough Monday. Just trying
I'm
to get the body back to zero.
I'm at the age where at the last festival concert I went to, I I think was it Coachella? It was either Coachella or Austin City Limits, and I was like, I basically the entire time I just sat in an air conditioned tent and ate ice cream. That's, and watched I watched the concert on the TV. It was like I sat in a VIP tent on a couch watching the concert on TV. That was my last musical festival, I think. It was Outcast. Was I think it was Austin City Limits was the Outcast was the headliner. They got back together. It's not it wasn't 25 years ago. Anyway, cool, man. Good. I'm happy to hear you're hungover. All right, let's do this.
Yeah, let's jump into it. My Cubbies, we finally did something exciting. Matt
Let's
Mervis
do this.
got
Wait, let's do this like Matt Mervis. Oh, wait,
yeah,
that didn't rhyme.
it was
Forget
close.
it.
If you were like Eminem, you probably could have done it. You could have done the right beats, syllables, but no, it was close enough. Though. I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you.
Thanks.
But that last year across three levels, he had 309, 379, 606. He had 36 home runs with a couple of stolen bases. This year in AAA, he had 24 games, six home runs, 286, 402, 560. He had a 17% K rate, a 16% walk rate. He's had three games up, and he's hitting 286 so far. Gray must add all formats.
Yeah, Matt. So let me tell you my Matt Mervis story. So about I don't know, maybe it was like 2 weeks ago, a little bit more maybe at this point. A Cubs person let me know that Matt Mervis was going to be called up. So I was like, nice, I got the info. so so I went and I added Matt Mervis like everywhere I could. I think I told the Rasball group chat. I even wrote up a buy. He was the lead buy on Rasball that Friday after I heard. So I heard Matt Mervis was getting called up. So I had and then in my one league, 15 team mixed league, Yahoo friends and family, in that with anyway. So I had Matt Mervis, and I had Will Myers as my first baseman, who's been awful. So obviously I needed Matt Mervis. So the day he was called up, what was that, Thursday? So that morning on Thursday, I was like, this was already like a good 10 days after I heard Matt Mervis was getting called up. So I was like, at this point, I was like, my Cubs insider doesn't know what they're talking about. What a bunch of what are you doing, man? You're playing me for a fool? Like, what's that all about? Who are you trying to make Gray Albright look like an idiot? Because that ain't gonna happen here. So with that morning, I took Matt Mervis and I was like, it dropped to waivers for Jake Bauers. Huh? Oh, oh. And then he was called up literally like an hour later. Like it was like it may not even been an hour. It was really painful. Oh my god. So then I dropped so then despite myself, I dropped Jake Bauers and picked up Christian Encarnacion-Strand. Who we'll talk about in a second. Anyway, so Matt Mervis, let's see. So like to me, he feels like the prototypical corner man, like 25 to 30 homers, no speed whatsoever. Solid, like decent contact. Like right now, his like as we record this, his strikeouts are out of control. But that's that's a small sample size.
Yeah.
It's only been 3 games, so like he's like probably I want to say he was a 17% strikeout rate guy in AAA, but I want to say probably in the majors, like roughly 23 to 26%, probably hits like, 245 to 255. So we're like, you know, I mean, at this point, I would love to get that from Jose Abreu. I don't know. I don't know if we're ever going to get anything from Jose Abreu, but like that's kind of what I see. Like Matt Mervis and Jose Abreu are probably about equal from this point forward for this year. And Matt Mervis, honestly, I think Matt Mervis I would probably prefer at this point because Jose Abreu has been so awful. But I mean, I still actually have faith in Jose Abreu turning his season around. Anyway, I think Matt Mervis is like, like think of like where you took Nate Lowe in the preseason, like around there, like a 25. Think of a 25 to 28 homer guy who's going to hit 250 plus, over the course of 162 games. So you take off like, the month plus that we've already lost. So you're looking at like maybe a 22 homer, 250 hitter the rest of the way with no speed. But that's totally, I mean, that's rosterable in all leagues. I like Matt Mervis a lot. I think he's probably, I want to say at this point, I would say probably top 15 first baseman, maybe 15 to 17, somewhere in that range for the first baseman. But there's upside, like I said. So that could be maybe top 7 to 10, 7 to 12 top first baseman. So, yeah, I mean, I think he's definitely grab him if he's out there. I'm sure at this point he's been picked up by someone in your league, if not yourself, like Matt Mervis was picked up in my league where I dropped him. Oh my God,
immediately picked up.
I'm so dumb, man. I mean, I honestly, I'm a really stupid person. So, yeah, I mean, definitely, I like Matt Mervis. I'm a big fan. What's your thoughts?
I mean, I'm biased as hell, so take this for what it's worth. But yeah, I think he pretty much goes into the top, I'd say 12 first baseman for me. Like I guess it's probably between like him and maybe like Vinny P, who, we had from the start of the season. We have a little bit more track record with
that's
what to expect.
That's not bad. I like that comp. Vinny P's a good comp. I think Vinny P and Nate Lowe, they were drafted around like within like a round of each other. So yeah, I could see that. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I think that's pretty much all I had to say. I think Mervis has more power. I think Vinny P's hit tool is a little bit better, but Mervis isn't like absent a hit tool. He's not just a, 3 true outcome type of guy. He has the ability to hit for some averages. A 255 average from a rookie is a pretty solid average from a rookie hitter, typically speaking. And then again, that comes with the upside of him potentially getting, I'd say 270, 275 if things kind of go right and he adjusts fairly quickly into the majors. Like that's not out of the realm of possibility. So yeah, I think he falls into that back in, first base 12 to 14 range where with upside, but maybe not as secure as some of the other options out there. But as you mentioned, you also picked up Christian Encarnacion-Strand because you dropped Matt Mervis for some ridiculous reason. Now, I haven't heard anything on Strand. I asked you before. You said you hadn't necessarily heard anything either. So this is, he was part of the Tyler Mahle trade last year across high A and double A for Cincinnati and Minnesota last year. He had 304, 368, 587. He had 32 home runs, 8 stolen bases. This year in AAA, and why he's on this is he's hitting 404, 433, 807, 7 home runs with a 21.7% K rate. He's not walking because he's just hitting everything right now, Gray. I mean, I feel like he has to get called up, but at the same time, it's the Reds, and the Reds might stick him down. Like they could call up him and they could call up Ellie any day, or they could wait until mid-June.
Yeah, well, I think you mentioned Ellie. I think Ellie De La Cruz is further away. I think he's probably a September call up, if that. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, like you said, I don't know when Christian Encarnacion-Strand is coming up. I assume he's coming up soon because, like, I mean, his numbers are ridiculous. He's got, like, I mean, CES is also a electronics trade show, and he's got video game numbers. I mean, it's just like it's insane, like what he's hitting right now. I just Googled where he was born to see if he was a an island baby because he's his walk rate is so absurdly low, like 1.7% walk rate as of right this second. But it's so absurdly low. I thought maybe he was like that stereotypical. Like the Vlad Guerreros of the world, like swing at everything. But yeah, I mean, he was born in Walnut Creek, California, so that's not the case at all. Yeah, I mean, his actually, going to the walk rate, I think there could be a chance where like he potentially bottoms out a little bit. Like I do worry that he could get called up and hit like 220 or lower. I mean, I could see that potentially happening. On the other hand, like Cincy is one of the best parks, obviously. Cincy's a great park to hit in, especially for power. He's got immense power. I could see him hitting, I said Mervis was probably 22 homers the rest of the way. I could see if Strand were called up today, I could see him hitting 30 homers the rest of the way. Like he has crazy power. Like he could potentially hit and 30 homers the rest of the way is a ton of
That's
homers.
a lot of home runs.
That's like basically calling him a 40 homer hitter. Like that's a ton of homers. So yeah, I mean, I could see him potentially, at least 25 homers like the rest of the way. And that's like being, I think, realistic. Like his power is crazy. Like he could probably do like a 5 to 7 homer month, like each month of the season. The problem is the walks, like I said. So do the K's go up in the majors? Likely. His BABIP's probably going to come down. His BABIP right now in the minor leagues is insane. It's at 432 BABIP. Yeah, I love Strand though. I mean, I'm stashing him in a couple leagues right now. I feel like he's 23 years old. He feels like he's ready. He's ready to come up. I hear what you're saying with the Reds. Like, when do they need him? Never. They don't need him because they're not going anywhere. When do they call him up? I mean, what are they doing? Like at worst, I think he's up July when Will Myers is traded for like a prospect or something. At best, I think he could get called. I think he could get called up within a week because like what's Spencer Steer doing really? I mean, and Will Myers, like I mentioned, he's been terrible. So like I don't see any reason why they should hold him down because I think he's unlike De La Cruz. I think De La Cruz, like I mentioned, is a little bit further away because, he's younger. He's 21 versus Strand's 23. Strand feels like he's just, like if they're not calling him up soon, what are they doing? Like, there's no reason. Like, he's sort of like in the same boat as like Matt Mervis, where it's like, why keep him down? There's no point in keeping Strand in the minors. Like, there's no longer that whole like service time thing. Like, as we see with like prospects getting called up all the time, the service time isn't really an issue anymore. I think, at worst, like I said, July when someone's traded for a prospect, at best, he could get called up by this podcast next week.
Yeah. I think it involves Steer potentially moving somewhere, and I don't know where that is because I feel like they want to let him play too. I mean, Steer's also like in his first full season. You got to give him some run as well if you're gonna, see if he's anything. So I think that's maybe the hesitation. I'm with you on Will Wires. Like he doesn't necessarily need a spot, but Steer's been starting at first base with Senzel at third primarily. Senzel could move back out to the outfield, just boot Will Myers out completely, or there's all sorts of ways you can
By
get
the
Senzel
way,
in too.
by the way, what happened? Did Joey Votto retire to do TikToks? What happened? What happened with Joey Votto? Right? He did exist at one point, right?
He was around. I remember him, being a thing.
I didn't make that name up in my head, right? He's an actual person, right? Wait,
Yeah.
so like the right now I'm looking at like the depth charts. So, I mean, I'm assuming Votto comes back at some point. So they have Will Myers in right field, Steer at first base, and Henry Ramos at DH. Who I don't even know who Henry Ramos is, to be honest. I don't know. I don't know if that name is made up. So, I I think Steer could stay at first. Myers could go to DH. Then they have like Nick Senzel goes to right field, and that opens
Strand fills
Strand.
third.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that Strand goes to third, so that opens up Strand. I don't know. I mean, it's a little bit up in the air, but like the good thing with Strand and Mervis and a lot of these rookies, unlike Taj Bradley, most of them are going to get called up and they're here to stay. Unlike like Gavin Stone, who they Dodgers had a stacked. Dodgers not stacked, but the Dodgers have 5 pitchers and Gavin Stone didn't look good in his first start. But like with position players, at least for the most part, they're going to get called up. They're going to play. So yeah, I mean, I'm stashing Strand. I like him a lot. I might be telling myself that because I dropped Matt Mervis 20 minutes before he was called up. But yeah,
No, I mean Strand's hit the last 2 years. There's no reason to not think he shouldn't get a call up and that he would continue to hit. As you mentioned, the walk rate is very low this year. He's taken one walk, but it's also only been like 13 games for him. So in 13 games, one walk. If he takes 3 walks, all of a sudden that number's like 9%. And then you're like, oh, he's fine. So it is what it is in regards to the walk rate itself, but he's not somebody who's going to walk a lot. He's never been above a 10% walk rate. Like he's always been a sub 10% walk rate guy across the minors. But again, he's 23, but he's only spent 2 years in the minors. I mean, he's kind of flown up through it because he just hits, and going 400, 800 out of the gate is a nice way to say it's time for me to be called out. Somebody who has been called up and then sent back down, called up, injured, and then sent back down, and then sent back down again, and then injured again is Alex Kiriloff. He's back up, Gray. He had the wrist surgery last August, and in 10 games at AAA this year, he has 3 home runs, 2 stolen bases, and he was hitting 316, 435, 605. We know Alex Kiriloff is way too good for AAA. Is he good enough that you're picking up across the board in your leagues?
man, he's so tough because like I love you loved
I
Kirill,
love
right?
Alex Kiriloff.
Yeah. I mean, I love him too, man. Like it's like he should have been like a 30 homer, 285 plus average guy. Like he should have been that. Now with the wrist though, and it's like he had the surgery as you mentioned. It's like almost 2 years to the day since he injured himself, since he injured his wrist. And even before that, there was like concern about the wrist. So it was like there was concern and then he injured it. Yeah, I mean, I would pick him up. He says his wrist is fine, but I think we might have heard that before. I think we've heard that his wrist is good, and it's going on like over almost it's 2 years now that he's just been such a mess, unfortunately, because it's like, Riss, I don't know, man. I like him. I do. He's now, what's he, 25 years old? Like, I mean, like, it's like, yeah, I mean, he's still got, it's sad too, because I feel like he probably knows how good he can be. And he knows he's like not 100%, but he wants to, he's like, what else are you going to do? So, yeah, I mean, I like him though. I just, I worry that the wrist is just not good for his career, unfortunately. But we'll see, I guess. I don't know. What's your take? I know you love him. Go ahead.
I do. No, I mean, you pretty much said everything. I love him. He's always had a great eye. He's always had, an amazing hit tool plus the power on top of it. He should be, George Springer with average, but he's always hurt. So maybe he is George Springer, just, less, even less time on the playing field. I am worried about the power a little bit. He's hit 3 home runs in 10 games in AAA, but again, that's AAA with a guy who's been in the majors enough time. Like, he's been up and down from the majors since he was 23. He's now 25, so that's 3 seasons, give or take, up and down from the majors. He knows he can hit AAA pitching, so we'll see if it translates to power at the MLB level. I would say with his, generally speaking, he's going to have dual eligibility, first base, outfield. So with the dual eligibility and the fact of his upside of being a 280, 20, 25 home run the rest of the way type of guy, I think he's somebody I would pick up everywhere. But yeah, just monitor and see how the numbers start looking as we get more hits from him, because right now it's all small sample size to really rattle off any kind of hard hit or barrels or anything like that. So we'll monitor it, but yes, I would pick him up absolutely. Enmanuel Valdez, part of the Christian Vasquez trade. And in 11 games this year, the second baseman for Boston has hit 324, 342, 486. Everybody who Boston has tried to play at second base has gotten hurt this season. So is Enmanuel Valdez real? Where did he come from, Gray? I mean, he had a solid AAA, AA, AAA season last year.
Yeah, he looks a little bit like probably better in real life than for fantasy, because like he doesn't really have huge power. He has like next to no speed, even though he's stolen 3 bags as of the recording of this, which is, interesting because he's not really known for his speed at all. I mean, I don't know. I like, the Fenway is a great park for Babbitt, and it's just a good park in general for average. That's why even with like, other guys like, as bad as Justin Turner looked or, had been, like, I kind of liked him with, the wall in Fenway adds like, 20, it adds like 20 points in average. Like, it's like, instead of a camera adding 20 pounds, the wall adds 20 points. It's so good for any hitter, righty or lefty, obviously better for righties, but, lefties, if they go the opposite way. So yeah, I mean, I like him like in deeper leagues. I can't get behind him yet in shallower leagues. I feel like he kind of, I mean, the Red Sox, I was saying this on the site the other day, like the Red Sox haven't really developed anyone since like Devers 6 years ago. Like they've been like, the Red Sox have been terrible. Like, I mean, they like, Tanner Hulk supposedly is going to be something. Whitlock was supposed to be something. Dahlback was supposed to be something. Tristan Casas, Casasis, Casas, Queso. Yum. Is that jalapeno cheddar? Thank you. I like that in my mouth. Yeah, I mean, Valdez looks like he's at this point just like a hot bat that you pick up in every league to see if he can continue, but I don't think he's going to continue, to be honest. I mean, he looks pretty flat, like looking at his numbers. I don't know. What's your take?
I pretty much feel the same, except like he had 28 home runs. He had 8 stolen bases in AAA. I don't want to ignore the fact that he did that because it's still not nothing to go 28, 8, 300 across 2 levels in a season. Like that's definitely not nothing. But just looking at the stats, looking at him, like the spray chart on him, he's a switch hitter, but they've only started him as a lefty versus righty so far. So it seems like he's maybe a switch hitter that they're deciding he's not a switch hitter anymore. He's only going to swing from the left-handed side. He's gotten a few off the wall. Like I think it's a little bit of just him being very lucky right off the bat in regards to the average and just he just put in a guy I think puts the ball in play. I don't think he flips that many out. Maybe he pulls a few down the line, but he really doesn't look like a power pull hitter. It seems like it's more like it would be to center or left field if he was a power hitter. And both of those aren't great for what he does because if he goes oppo, go oppo and up over the wall is pretty demanding, I would say, for a guy that again I don't think he has.
Yeah, he's not
power.
He's not David Ortiz.
Right. So I think it's average. I think you can pick him up for that. Second base, middle infield has been just hit with injuries, so I get it. If you're just grabbing him and running him out there while he's hot and the BABIP's good. I mean, I think the Red Sox haven't moved him up the order at all, so I think that tells you what they think, with given the fact that like they could use all the help up top in their lineup that they could get right now. I think that tells you it's okay. Like they're still running out Yoshida and Turner up there. Duran's moving his way up. I'm actually more interested in him if we're looking at like Boston Red Sox guys who might be on the wire.
Yeah. Well, Yoshida's
he's probably gone already.
Yeah, I just want to correct you. Yoshida's been great. let's not say anything bad about
it. And actually Verdugo's been awesome. Like
Verdugo's been great.
It was really Justin Turner. Seeing Justin Turner still sitting in the middle of the lineup.
Justin Turner has not been great.
Yeah, that feels really off.
Yeah. He's basically like Justin Turner right now is hitting 265 with a 298 BABIP. In any other park, that is probably 230 with a 260 BABIP. It's not. I mean, honestly, that's probably as good as. I mean, the park is really keeping Justin Turner even from just totally bottom out. Anyway, I don't know why we're talking about Justin.
Yeah, we can move on. Just he's not important. Moving on, Bryce Miller crossed 3 levels last year. He had one started low A, high A, so high A, double A. He had 3.16 ERA, 104 WHIP, 133 innings, 30% K rate, a sub 10% walk rate at all his stops. The K's kind of down this year, but the walks also down, which is a nice kind of balance. But in 2 starts this last week, he had 12 innings, 1 earned run, 15 Ks, 1 walk. So he showed both the strikeouts and the fact that the walks are down. Are you interested in Bryce Miller, Gray?
Yes, but apparently not as much as everyone else because he went for a ton in Fab. Like it was like, oh, I guess people like Bryce Miller. I misread that one because like, I mean, I want to say I bid like, this is out of 1,000. I want to say I bid like maybe in the 60s. I mean, that wasn't even close. I was like, I mean, people were bidding over $300 out of 1,000. That's a ton for Bryce Miller. I mean, I like him. I did not like him that much. I honestly, I mean, I thought like he was a little bit based on. I was just looking at his upcoming matchups aren't bad. He gets it looks like he gets the Tigers. Anyway, yeah, I mean, I thought like we were, Oakland was his first start. So, that's obviously a great matchup. And then he looked okay versus the Astros. I mean, he didn't look bad, don't get me wrong, but it was like, 6 innings, 5 Ks. Like that's not bad, but it's not versus Oakland, obviously. And like I said, he's going to get the Tigers. So people are going to be like, after he goes against the Tigers and gets another, 6 inning, 9 Ks, people are going to be like, wow, this guy's, the real deal. And, he might be to a certain extent. I don't know, man. Like Seattle's a great park, so he has that going for him. If he's able to keep his command was always the issue, and like you mentioned, his command's been fantastic this year. So if he is able to command his pitches, and he can get even a 9 K per nine, but probably closer to a 10. Yeah, I mean that's definitely good numbers. I mean
Yeah.
he will. I mean that will be good if he can do that. Not to, completely state the obvious, but the Astros haven't been good this year. They've been pretty bad actually compared to where they used to be. Bregman is hitting 180. I mean, it's they're a mess. So Bregman's hitting 195. But anyway, the Astros are a mess. Oakland's awful. The Tigers are going to be bad. I kind of want to see Bryce Miller go against a good team who will actually take a pitch and see where that, lands Bryce Miller. But, on the other hand, what good teams are there that I mean, there's plenty of bad teams that you can, in worst case scenario, you could just play matchups if it comes down to it. So, and that's and when I say matchups, I mean starting him 95% of the time and only taking him out against maybe away game in Toronto or something. If the Mariners even go there, I mean, I don't even know. So yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know. I was just surprised by how the fab betting on him was just so crazy. It didn't hurt that he had a great Sunday start. So, that I understood, but he went for more than Matt Mervis in my league. And, a position player is always going to be better than a hitter. I mean, excuse me, a pitcher, because they play 6 to 7 games a week versus, the one start a week. But yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on what people need. Anyway, long story short, I like Bryce Miller. I didn't like him as much as he went for in Fab, but I mean, I could kind of see him being maybe on the level of a Tanner Bibby, maybe Logan Allen. Who else is doing well? If Taj Bradley ever comes back, yeah. I mean, I guess Mason Miller. Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe Bryce Miller could be in that whole, that range of great rookie pitchers. But rookie pitchers are also super fickle, man. Just when you think they're good, a Grayson Rodriguez comes along and is like, oh, ooh, ow, what is that? Wait, what's happening here? Or Gavin Stone or Brandon Fat. Fat. I pronounced the P, but you just can't hear it. Yeah. So anyway, I don't know. What's your take?
No, I mean, I'd say that in regards to all rookie pitchers, you're correct. There's always going to be some volatility. That's just the way that they have to figure out the league. The league figures them out, and there's just a game until they kind of settle in as the person they are. Anybody with a 30% K rate upside who has also already kind of shown it in his 2 starts, that, as you mentioned, opponent's not great, but you get the opponents that you face. So I think just the K rate alone is enough for me to grab him and take the speculative pickup in all leagues. We are talking about a guy who is, a top 100 prospect. Now, top 100 is certainly different than top 20, top 10, and then there's the elite that is usually a few. There's a few of those guys at any given time, but it's still, he still has enough pedigree, and anybody throwing 96 miles per hour with a 30% K rate is on my radar, and I'm happy to add them. I don't think I would have spent 35% of my fab budget on it, but I'd say 10 to 20%.
What's your Mervis or Miller?
I pretty much have corner infield locked down in a lot of my leagues, so I'm probably going after Miller because of my needs on my teams.
I mean,
you and I are both
in a vacuum. I'm not talking.
Yeah, no, Mervis. Like it's Mervis.
Yeah.
If you're just talking about prioritizing, like if I was writing the Fab article this week, it'd be Mervis would be one, and then Bryce Miller would probably be like 4, 5, somewhere in that range. Like he wouldn't even be the second guy probably.
Yeah. I mean, that was my sort of feeling on it too, because like in most leagues, and I'm talking about a 15-team mixed league when I talk about the Fab. I mean, in most of those leagues, you can always find like the Drew Smileys who have like a good 2-start matchup or something. So it's like, I mean, Smiley didn't look great on Saturday, but even with that said,
no pitcher has really looked great every start. Well, I mean, not pitcher, but there's a lot of pitchers who have had a rough outing here and there.
Yeah, no, completely. But like in those leagues, like you can find the random like start of the week, like that you can bid like $12 out of 1,000 and get them.
Yeah, you put in whatever you're willing to eat on the Bryce Miller shot that he's good and he stakes the rotation and everything like that. And then you pick, like you said, you make a nominal bid, $1 or $2 if you're in 100, or like 10 to 15 if you're in, $1,000 Fab on the streaming guys, and you take what you can.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, moving on.
Maikel Garcia for the Royals across AA, AAA last year. He had 285, 359, 427. He had 11 home runs and 39 stolen bases. He's gotten the call up so far in 6 games. He's hitting 348. He has 2 stolen bases. He's not striking out or walking at all, Gray. He's at a 3.8% on both of them so far. He has 1 of each. Where are you at on Maikel Garcia, the Royals? I'm sorry, the Royals, I guess, left side fielder.
Yeah, they're. I think he's playing third right now.
He's playing third right now for him.
Yeah, I think because I think Nicky Lopez's appendix. It's interesting he had his appendix removed because Nicky Lopez is kind of like an appendix to the Royals lineup as well. Just the useless removal. I think I mentioned Lopez. If Maikel Garcia hits as well as he has been, I mean, I think he's going to take the job and have it for the rest of the year. I don't see him getting replaced by anyone coming back from IL, whether it's Nicky Lopez or anyone else. With that said, yeah, I mean, I think he could be like a 15 to 20 steal guy, Maikel Garcia, that is. I don't know if he's going to really, I mean, he could potentially hit for a good average like he has in the past. AAA, he didn't hit for a great average this year, but that was a small sample. He's hit for a good average in the past. Like he could potentially hit 270 or higher with 15 to 20 steals. He looks like super lightweight power guy, like no power at all. Like he's according to Fangraphs, he's 145 pounds. So I guess and he's 6 feet tall. Wow, he's super skinny. Yeah, I mean, I weigh more than Maikel Garcia.
He's the bat version of.
Yeah, I mean, I've had boba drinks that have weighed more than Maikel Garcia. Yeah, I mean, he is like is he D Gordon without speed? I mean, he's got some speed, but he doesn't have like crazy speed. I mean, he looks fine, like for a fill-in for a. If you really need if you really need speed, like I could see grabbing him and potentially like he could like potentially hit 270 plus. So there's that, like maybe 15 to 20 steals, 15. Yeah, I mean 15 feels like honestly that feels kind of high potentially. I don't know. We'll see. like you never know with everyone running in this season with the limited pickoffs, blah blah blah. I mean, he could potentially steal 20 plus, maybe. I would be shocked if he hit one home run. Like he looks like really like no power. Maybe 260, 270. Yeah. I mean, he seems okay. I can't get that excited about him, to be honest, because like, if you need speed, you grab him and that's fine. But there's like in shallower leagues, you can't really carry a guy like Maikel Garcia. You could, like in a 15 team mixed league, maybe, and deeper, sure. In an AL only, absolutely. But in like a 12 team mixed league, you can't, like, you pick them up maybe for a game or two if you're looking to like vulture a steal, but you can't really carry a guy like Maikel Garcia.
Yeah, I agree, and especially since he's sitting at the bottom of a not spectacular lineup as well. So all that kind of adds up to, like you said, stream him if you need speed, grab him in deeper leagues. But that's about the extent of interest in Garcia. He's just, I mean, you said he's okay. Like he could hit for an okay average. He could have okay speed given the changes in the way people are running. Really no power. Like he might have a couple of home runs in the right parks if that happens, and that's about all we would expect there. Moving on, Ezequiel Duran, he's staying hot. He's hitting well so far. Uh, Corey Seager's coming back at some point. 26 games this year, though. He's hitting 318, 348, 506. He has 4 home runs, 2 stolen bases. Last year, he came up for 58 games. He hit 236, 5 home runs, 4 stolen bases. He had 316 home runs, 14 stolen bases in the minors last year. Looking at this kind of sum of numbers, it looks like a guy who's kind of gotten more comfortable at the major league level. He's producing right now for sure. Does you think he stays and has a job when Corey Seager eventually returns?
Yeah, I mean that's probably going to be the biggest problem with him is whether or not he's going to continue playing. I think if he's hitting as well as he is right now, then Seager comes back, takes back shortstop, and Duran just moves to DH, or he's played left field some. So like Travis Jankowski right now is penciled in as the left fielder, and luckily they're using pencil because they should turn the pencil over and erase him. I think Ezequiel Duran is likely not this good as far as like average goes. Like right now he's got a 390 BABIP. He's fast, so I'm not going to say like he's not crazy fast, but he's got speed. So I'm not going to say his BABIP will totally bottom out, but he's probably closer to like a 315 to 320 BABIP guy. So that's going to knock his average down to like 250-ish. He's got good power. He's got good speed. In like 84 career major league games, he's got 9 homers and 6 steals. Not to be all Mr. Prorater over here, but that's a pretty valuable guy if he were to play a full season. Like, a 20 homer, 15 steal, 255 guy is definitely got value in every league. Yeah, I like him. I actually, I was surprised because I thought like this was just like a hot run by him, and it is somewhat hot. Like I said, his BABIP is going to come down, but I think there's value here. Like he's got decent speed, decent power. It's not going to be like if he goes cold, I could see him losing the job. Like don't get me wrong. Like he's not necessarily like a guy who's going to be, you're going to pick him up and Ron Popel set it and forget it and keep him in the lineup keep him in your fantasy lineup for the rest of the year. Like I don't necessarily, if I see that even in like deeper leagues, like I could see him, going cold and getting, dropped or benched in a 15 team mixed league. Like he's not necessarily like, the end all, but he could potentially have good value for, at least for the foreseeable future, I think.
Yeah, it's small sample sizes with only 58 games last year and 26 games this year, but so far it looks like he's hitting the ball a lot harder this year. So while the BABIP is high right now, sitting at 390, he was a 330 or sorry, he was a 295 BABIP guy last year in the majors in 58 games. So maybe it comes somewhere in the middle and he's like a 340, 350 BABIP guy, which puts him down at like a 260 average, somewhere in that range, which is, kind of what you were saying, 260 with 15-15, 20-15 maybe. And I think, like you said, that's a valuable guy. We'll see how the playing time shakes out when Seeker returns, but you got to think if he's hitting well and just the money that Texas is committed to older guys, they kind of need to get anybody who's hitting and try and get the fan base moving forward with this money they've spent and just put the guys that are hitting in. Moving on, Bryce Elder, he has been great this year. Is this another one in a long line of Atlanta pitchers who you won't trust next
Hold
year?
on a
Gray?
second. Hold on. I got I'm getting a call from Mike Soroka. Oh my God! Wait, and he's on he's patching in Tuki Tucson. Wait a minute. We got Kyle Wright's on the phone too. Hold on a second. Jins? What are you doing here? Bryce Elder, man. I mean, what is with the Braves having one like insane breakout every year who then just disappears? Just like it goes up. I mean, the only one who's really been able to break that streak has been Spencer Strider so far. I guess Max Fried too. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, there's always one guy that just like Bryce Elder has what's he got, a 174 ERA? Oh, come on, man. Actually, in my RCL league, in our RCL league, I dropped Bryce Elder, maybe a starter. That's a 12-team mixed league, for people who don't know. But that's, I mean, my pitching is so good, I just couldn't hold him anymore. And at some point, he's got to come back to earth, right? I mean, he's so his peripherals look not good, right? Am I crazy here? I mean, he's not this good, right?
He's not. I mean, he has a 219 average against. He's got a 268 BABIP. He's got a 90% left on base. So yeah, I mean, to some extent, none of that's really going to hold. But it's also the Braves, and we see this from them every year, Gray. So while I'm very hesitant to say that this is going to continue, I'm not ruling it out either. I think that he's not necessarily somebody that you absolutely must hang on to. I think in that league, there's very few of those guys, especially if you have some strong starters. You can kind of move guys in and out. But 41 innings of a sub-2 ERA is pretty solid. I would expect he's probably closer to, like double that the rest of the season, like closer to a 4 ERA, Gray, if we're guessing.
Yeah, I mean, his strikeouts and his walks are just so kind of whatever. I mean, maybe he suppresses his BABIP and his homers allowed enough where he's able to keep his ERA like in the 3.5 to 3.6 to 3.7 ERA range, kind of. But I mean, at some point, you gotta think he's gonna he's not gonna leave as many men on base. Like, that's right now his I'll buy the home run suppression. I'll buy the BABIP suppression because, if he's keeping the ball down, he gets a lot of ground balls. But at some point, those ground balls are going to go through, and the men left on base is not going to stay near 90% men left on base.
Yeah, I mean, he just doesn't have the stuff to maintain anything like a 90% left on base rate, because you'll see that occasionally in stretches from guys, but it's guys who have ridiculous stuff. Like Spencer Strider, if he had a 90% left on base rate one season, not that surprising because he can strike people out to get himself out of jams. That's not really what Bryce Elder is doing. Bryce Elder is lucky if he gets to like 91 miles an hour on his fastball. So we're looking at a completely different type of pitcher here. You're right. He's done a great job of suppressing the hard contact. He's getting 58% ground balls. That's when almost 2/3 or just short of 2/3 are getting on the ground. That's a great way to kind of make sure that you're not giving up home runs. The swinging strike rate is fine. It's nothing special at 10%. So I'm with you. There's going to be some regression here. I don't know that's necessarily coming, and you're like right now, and the Braves are a good team to have a pitcher for because they're putting up runs as much as anybody is. So I think there's worse players that you can be rostering. I think he's probably rostered in every league other than the ones you're dropping him in. But I'm not committed to holding on to him for
yeah,
when it starts to go south.
Right. And just to clarify, I dropped him in a 12-team mixed league where I have an ERA of like 2.5. Like my pitching right now is so insane, and I have, I had no hitter for, it was a short schedule day, and I think Bryce Elder's next couple matchups aren't great. So I was like, I had to move on. But yeah, he's probably worth rostering in all leagues until the blow up happens, but I just couldn't field him anymore.
Yeah, you're in a very weird space in that one. So that's not really. Don't listen to Gray. Don't be dropping him yet. That's not where we're at with him yet. I think he's a hold. If you can sell high on him, then by all means sell high on him. But I don't think anybody's necessarily buying Bryce Elder as a sub-2 ERA guy rest of season. On the opposite side, are we looking at a Lodolo buy low here, Gray? As
yeah, Lodolo, Holdolo if you have them, huh? Holdolo or buy low. I think he's probably the most unlucky pitcher. Like you're going from the luckiest pitcher with Elder, well, maybe not the luckiest, but one of the luckiest, to probably the most unlucky with Lodolo. Lodolo's right now has a 6.29 ERA, and his K per nine and walk per nine is 12.3 and 2.6. That's insane. He's got a 435 BABIP. You can't find many guys as unlucky as Lodolo right now. And he's not really a fly ball pitcher, and he's getting crushed by home runs. I don't know. I don't know if he's going to get to because Cincy is a terrible park. So I don't know if he's going to necessarily get to the low 3 ERA on the season that people were hoping for, but he's got to be better than this. He's not bad. He's not a bad pitcher. This is insane right now.
Yeah, it's been kind of a gross start to the season for him. And I will say the velocity was down for him to start the season. I don't know if that was just him not getting up to speed or what happened with the velocity, but it is ticking up. Like each month he started kind of 92.5. It was like 93, 93.5 last month. And now he's finally, his last start, he averaged 94. So I do think, there's better times coming for him as it warms up in Cincinnati as well. That might help with his velocity. Also going to help the ball leave the ballpark a little bit. But as you mentioned, he's not an overly fly ball pitcher. The ballpark's never going to do any favors. And the fact that we're back to, a bouncier ball also not doing him any favors. But I'm with you. I don't think he's a 6.3 ERA guy. I would say if I had to guess, last year, Gray, we were looking at a 3.66. I would probably take the over on 3.66 rest of season just because I haven't seen him look as good as he did last season yet. But if he put up another in that range, that seems the right range. 3.6 to 3.8 seems like the right range of ERA with the Ks.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, no, I agree. I think he's probably, I think he could have a month or two where he has like a 2-something ERA, and because his Ks are so good. Yeah, I like the buy low or the Holdolo a
would
lot.
would you give up any of these pitchers for him? Bryce Miller, who we just talked about.
Uh, yeah, I think I would actually. I think I would give up Bryce Miller for Lodolo. I definitely would give up Elder. Bryce Miller is tougher one, but yeah, I would give up Bryce Miller because like we could be here next week and be like, oh well, the rookie pitchers don't trust them. So yeah, I don't trust rookie pitchers really in general. And
Mhm.
Bryce Miller, as good as he's looked, he's had easy matchups. Yeah, I would go Lodolo.
All right, I would as well, just because I think what you want from Bryce Miller is essentially what I expect from Lodolo, and without any innings limits or potentially losing his rotation spot and mixed into that. So I'm with you there. What about Chris Bassett, who we talked about a couple weeks ago, who was well,
Oh,
he's not been performing,
no,
but
yeah, I would go Lodolo over
okay,
Bass.
go with the upside play and the K's because again he's at least getting K's still, which makes you think there's a turnaround coming.
Yeah, and his
Um,
command hasn't been bad. Like his numbers look good. He's just getting super unlucky.
yeah, yeah, that's fair. I was just wondering, since Bassett had finally had a good start, if maybe you're starting to turn around on him a little bit. Moving on, Josh Jung. I mean, he had foot surgery last year that cost him his job, where we thought he was going to be starting 31 games this year. He has 8 home runs, a stolen base. He is striking out. He's got a 31% K rate, a 6% walk rate. He's hitting 258 through 500. Are we looking at a 30 plus home run hitter here at third base with Josh Jung?
Yeah, I mean, like I've been waiting for Josh Jung to break out for like a year plus now. I think was it yeah, last preseason he got injured and he lost that year. And then the year before, I think I was on board the year before. Yeah, I mean, he's got 30 homer power. I think the real question is going to be whether or not he can get his strikeouts down a little bit because in the minors his strikeouts are pretty solid and he looked like he could be like a 270 hitter. But right now, his strikeouts are over 31%. And, that could push him to be like a 240 ish hitter. But yeah, no, I like him. On the site, I said he was probably like Ty France with more power. So, Ty France hasn't been great so far this year. But in general, that means like, a 270 average. Josh Jung is probably a 30 homer guy versus Ty France, where he's a 20 homer guy. So yeah, I mean, think about where you drafted like Ty France, even though he hasn't been good. So Josh Jung is probably in that like like we were saying with Matt Mervis, who's like around Nate Lowe, that area, and the Vinny Pascatino. Probably Josh Jung is in that range now, where he could potentially be a 30 homer 250 hitter, which is, not bad. I would take Josh Jung in just about, and even in the shallowest of leagues. So, yeah, I buy it. I worry a little bit about the average, but not too much. Like right now, he's hitting 258. Maybe he's a 245 hitter. So that's not, I mean, that's a difference of like, 3 or 4 hits. So that's not really a huge difference. So yeah, I mean, he's basically what he's doing right now is basically who I think he is.
Yeah, I mean, he's basically on pace to give you what Corey Seager did last year, like essentially that kind of line, 30 home runs, 240, 250 average.
Yeah.
And maybe he gets the K's under control because he's still figuring it out. Maybe that average come up a little bit. But yeah, I think he's kind of capped out at average right now, 258. I wouldn't expect that to climb really until the K rate can come down a bit because he's already smashing the ball. So that's not really anything missing. Let's talk about a few injuries. Eloy, he's out 4 to 6 weeks with an appendectomy. They have Gavin Sheets, Hazley, Billy Hamilton, filling in the outfield. And I mean, could we also potentially see a Oscar Colas recall? He's had 5 games in AAA and he's hitting .435 right now.
Yeah, I mean, if Colas is, if it's weird because it's like you want to see a guy hit well in the minors, but it's almost like if a guy hits well in the minors right after not doing well in the majors, then it's like, oh, so he's a quad A player, huh? Interesting. Which is not, I mean, that is not accurate necessarily, but I mean, that's what it feels like when a guy does so poorly in the majors and then goes to the minors and does well. Eloy, man. Only Eloy could turn an appendectomy into a 6-week IL stint. I mean, I'm surprised. Did he, on his way to the hospital, did he also like pull his hamstring? Like, I mean, what's going on, man? This is not a great. Like, Gavin Sheets looks fine for a fill-in if you're in a deeper league and you really need a guy. Hazley looks okay in very deep leagues, like in a 15-team mixed league. I grabbed Hazley for a at $12, I think, out of 1,000. So that's like basically $1 throwaway in a 15-team mixed league, because I don't even know what Hazley. I don't know what his at bats are going to be like. So I would say it's probably Sheets, Hazley, and then maybe Colas if he comes back. But yeah, right now it's not a great situation. Sheets had a decent game on Sunday, but everyone on the White Sox had a good game on Sunday. So maybe you can grab Sheets and get a hot potato, but there's not much here.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm not really interested. It seems like the only time Hazley gets playing time is when they want to make Luis Robert feel bad about something. They're like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna play Hazley, and that'll show you."
Yeah, exactly. He's like the he's the there's the carrot and Hazley's the stick.
All right, moving on to another injury. Luis Garcia unfortunately needs Tommy John. That's pretty disappointing, as I liked him to have a very nice season, as he's just kind of done throughout his career. They have filled in with, I mean, they've had all sorts of injuries, but JP France and Brandon Bielak, I think that's how you pronounce it, Bielak. Any interested in those guys? I mean, they've got a few other guys down in the minors, including the once heralded Forrest Whitley, who I think has a 9 ERA on the season currently. I mean, I guess if we're looking at these guys, France in AAA last year had a 3.9 ERA, 1.36 whip in 110 innings. He had a 28% K rate and a 10% walk rate. That was 15 starts, and he pitched in 34 games. Are you interested in France? I don't think we really need to go into Brandon Bielak at all, but if you want to talk about him, we can. I just don't think he brings the upside that most of our leagues are going to be needing.
Yeah, no, Bielak is like
he's filler.
The
Like,
host,
they just need innings.
The host, the co-host of Jeopardy right now. Yeah, I don't. Bielak's not good. Astros need innings, so that's why they're throwing him. And France, I don't know. France is interesting because like he's had good numbers in the minors, and he looked good in his first start, but he also kind of looks like a middle reliever. I almost wonder if like the Astros had just so many starters in the majors like that were really good that for like last year they were like, oh, let's see if France can be a middle reliever because we're never going to need them. Oops. Oopsies. I don't know, man. He does not like, his command is so bad. I feel like he's going to get plummeled like one of these days. Like I don't really buy. I don't trust France, to be honest. Like maybe you could try and stream him, but like his command is just so wonky. I think you're gonna get killed. It's not gonna turn out well. Sorry.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. I mean, he's had one stop in the minors. That was for only 33 innings, where he had a sub 10% walk rate. 10% is like the bare minimum of like what you would want for a starter. Like if it's relievers, you can kind of be like, okay, it's just a bad one here or there. Starters, you really got to you should be like below an 8 even to be a starter here. He only had one walk in his one outing so far, so it's encouraging to see. But I'm with you. I'm not as excited about France as what we were talking about earlier with Miller. I would say I would still take Bryce Elder over him. France does have some K upside, so if you're just chasing strikeouts in streamer matchups, there's worse possibilities. But with that walk rate, again, just know that if he doesn't have his stuff on point that day, it could turn out real bad real fast. Moving on, Tyler O'Neill, he has a lower back strain, also known as being terrible at his job. Juan Yepez got recalled.
Talking about ineffective list. I mean, that's a made up injury if I've ever heard it. It's like, oh yeah, he's got a back. I do? Yeah, you do.
You do.
Goodbye.
Go sit on a table somewhere.
Yeah. Go get a massage while we let the other guys play.
So Nootbaar's been startable. Can you start any of the other three in a standard league? Like Carlson, Burleson, Yepez. I'm still waiting on them to just sit all those guys down and let Jordan Walker play every day. But until that happens, can you start anybody but Nootbaar?
No, not really. No,
I mean, we talk about this every other week.
I mean, I like Brandon Donovan, probably in a 15-team mixed league, but even he's starting to wear out his welcome for like 12-team mixed leagues and shallower. Carlson, I don't know. I mean, I think he had a couple homers last week, so maybe he's got a hot bat right now, but in general, he's not good. And Burleson, I don't even know what that is. I don't know. I don't know where the Cardinals develop. The Cardinals didn't need Burleson at all. Like why try and make him a thing when you have Jordan Walker? Like, it doesn't even make any sense. It's like you look at their lineup and it's like, okay, Nootbaar, obviously, because he's good. And then Jordan Walker, because he's good. And then you could figure out the last outfield spot from the other three guys. Like, that's so obvious. I don't know. Anyway, yeah. So not great.
All right. We'll move on from the Cardinals outfield, as that's been a mess, as predicted. Max Fried might not make his next start because he is working through things, as Brent Snedeker said. That gives us absolutely no idea what's happening, whether he's starting Wednesday, Friday, never, whether he's going on a IL. His last start was not good. He went 6 innings, 5 earned runs, 7 runs total, 7 Ks, 2 walks. He had been good on the season up until that point for the most part, but this doesn't sound like anything positive. Gray, I mean, you can't start Max Fried this week, right?
No, I don't think so. I don't know. I mean, what Snickers said, he's working through things. I mean, what is he? Is a guidance counselor? What does that mean? Working through things? Like what's going on, man? That sounds like he just got like his mom is like on the phone. It's like Max can't come right. He can't come out and play right now. I'm sorry. He's working through things. I don't know, man. Hopefully he's fine because his stats actually don't look bad. I mean, he looks like basically the pitcher we always thought he'd be. Like right now he's got a 2.08 ERA. So I don't know. Hopefully he's healthy because he was injured earlier this year. So maybe that's what he means by working through things. Like maybe it's like he's got his back is sore. I don't know. But his numbers look fine. So yeah, hopefully he's good. I don't know.
Yeah, see, the Braves had given him pixie dust that they give the pitchers, And then when Fried didn't sign for 10 years and $2 million, they took the pixie dust away.
Yeah.
Now he's going through things. So yeah, we'll
They
see.
have like they have a 5-year, $120 million contract on a fishing line, and they just keep reeling it in. And then once the player is close enough, they say, "Here's a 12-year, $3 million deal." Like, wait, wait a second.
Oh yeah, that sounds about right. And I mean, he had been great. Like he had given up 1 run through 4 starts up until this point. So hopefully whatever's going on gets figured out and he works through them and everything's fine. But until we see whatever that is or get more information, I'm sitting him down this week, unfortunately. Um, let's go ahead and move over to bullpens, Gray. The Yankees bullpen's been kind of all over the place. And who are we going with here? Holmes hasn't had a save since April 12th. Ian Hamilton got a save Saturday. Michael King got a save Tuesday. Like, are we at a point that it's not Clay Holmes enough that you would potentially look at moving on from him? Or are you holding on to all three? What are you doing here in the Yankees
Yeah, no,
world of bullpens?
I mentioned earlier I dropped Bryce Elder. If I could go back in time, I probably would have dropped Clay Holmes from that team and kept Bryce Elder. Like, I think Clay Holmes is droppable in 12-team mixed leagues and shallower. In a 15-team mixed league, I'd probably hold for another week or so to see if Clay Holmes can fix himself. But right now, Clay Holmes is not in the closer picture. Like, I think he came in the 7th inning on Sunday, the 8th inning on Saturday. I think right now Michael King is the closer. He had gone an inning and 2/3 on Friday, and he got the save. And then Ian Hamilton came on Saturday and got the save because Michael King just couldn't go. And then in the close game, in the tie game, Michael King was used as the closer on Sunday. So I believe Michael King is the closer. I'm pretty confident on that. I think probably if I were laying out the bullpen chart, I would say Clay Holmes is in the 7th right now, Ian Hamilton is in the 8th, and Michael King is in the 9th. That's obviously in flux, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, I think Michael King's the guy right now.
Yeah, I would tend to agree that it's Michael King, and they've said that they didn't want to necessarily have him go back to back yet because they taxed him very hard last year, multiple inning relief role. So he may not go back to back, and Hamilton may get some vultures there. But I think you're right. I think King moves to the front, Hamilton, and Marinaccio might be moving ahead of Holmes because he's been great too.
Yeah.
So Holmes and really Holmes has had like 3 bad outings all year. So it's not like he's been absolutely awful. It's just that the others are surpassing him and being
Yeah, and
just
also
awesome.
the Yankees, like I mentioned this on the site the other day, like the Yankees are struggling to win games. So they're not about to like have a lead in the 9th inning and lose anything. Like
Yeah.
they're not in a position where they can give away games. So Clay Holmes is, I mean, his, margin for error was so minuscule as it was. So yeah, Clay Holmes wasn't terrible, but he's out.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. Moving on to the Cubs situation, it had been Brad Boxberger. He gave up runs his last 2 outings. Mark Leiter Jr. got the save on Friday. Albert Alzolay got one on Saturday. Where are you at in the Cubs? I kind of thought they'd go Boxberger just because they wanted to move him, but they've actually been not. No, they've been pretty terrible. I'm not even going to pretend to say that. But Mark Leiter's been good. Like Leiter and Alzolay have been good. It seems like maybe they're just finally realizing that they just need to go with those guys. Where are you at on the Chicago situation?
Yeah, I mean the Chicago situation is interesting because Alizé and Leader are both great, but I don't know how many save opportunities the Cubs are really going to get to be able to like carry 2 guys. So unless one pulls away, and you have like a excuse me, and you have like an Alex Lang of the Tigers type situation where it's like a bad team but a good closer. So unless one guy pulls away, it's not really a great situation. I grabbed Alizé. in one league, like a 15-team mixed league. I grabbed him for like, I want to say under $10 in Fab out of 1,000. So, I mean, he's fine. I like, actually, he's better than fine. He's good. It's just, I don't know if he's going to really get saves. And then, same with sort of like Mark Leader situation where he looks great, but how many saves is he going to get? I don't know, man. I would say probably rest of the season, I would put their saves at, maybe like 15 saves versus 10 saves, and flip a coin for which guy gets the 15 and which guy gets the 10.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's kind of back and forth between them. I will say, if you're in a 12-team or shallower, like you said, I don't think you can necessarily roster these guys. I do think in deeper leagues you can definitely run Leiter out there, even if he's not necessarily getting full-time save opportunities, because he's just been great. Like he's a 1.13 ERA, a sub-1 WHIP. He has 25 strikeouts in 16 innings. So just getting those peripherals and those strikeouts, you can do worse things in deep leagues without getting saves. But in 10 and 12-team leagues, relief pitchers need to be getting saves if you're rostering them.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. AJ Puck had the opportunity to be the closer. He blew his save on Saturday after a bad outing on Thursday as well. Dylan Floro's been good this year. He blew a save on Sunday. Brazoban's also been good. He has 21 innings, 25 Ks, 2.14 ERA, and 1.14 WHIP. Is there anybody in this bullpen that you think is taking this job? It seems like every time we think somebody is ready, they go out and blow a save.
Yeah, I think Puck's still the guy. His stats look great. It's just he did blow like Thursday and Saturday, like you said. Then he looked fine on Sunday. Yeah, I mean, I would be, in deeper leagues, this matters. In shallower leagues, it's Puck and no one else. In deeper leagues, I would probably, look at Florio and Brazoban as potential like handcuffs. But for now, I think it's still AJ Puck's job.
Yeah, I would tend to agree, since nobody's taking it. Every time they get an opportunity, they cough it back up. So I would still put Puck at the first, but I would give him the committee tag, and who knows what's going to happen moving forward. Puck's numbers have gone from like elite to still good. Again, that's like 2 outings from a reliever. That's just what happens early in the season. So I still think he's sitting at the top 4 now. But pick up Floro. I think it's Floro first, and then Brazoban if we're putting them in order. Andrew Chafin gave up a bunch of runs Saturday. He blew a save, 3 earned runs versus Washington. Do you think that there's anybody in this bullpen that could potentially give him a run for that closer job? It's kind of another one where nobody really seems like they have pitched well enough to even take advantage of Chafin's kind of messed up.
Yeah, no, I think, Chafin is, all I can think of is jean shorts when I hear the word Chafin. Jorts. I think he's still the closer, but like you said, he hasn't been great recently. For now, I think he's the closer, but I think Castro could give him a run for the job at some point. But yeah, I mean, Castro hasn't exactly been great either. I mean, his ERA looks okay, I guess, 3.60, but I mean, he's not striking out anyone. He's not showing closer stuff right now. So I guess Chafin is the guy still. But yeah, he really hurt me the other day with that. What was it, like 5 earned runs? Something awful.
I think it was 3 earned, 5 total.
Oh, it was so bad.
Yeah. It was really bad. It was a bad week for blow up closers. Everybody kind of tagged with different guys. The whole Philly situation has been bad for like 3 weeks. Can't get them to stop blowing up saves. So that's just been a headache to chase as well. I will say Kyle Nelson is maybe the one guy who has performed this year, but he's a lefty. I don't know if the Diamondbacks want to use him in that role. So that would be my my hesitation on saying
Chafin's a lefty too, but for whatever it's worth. But yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah.
So that would be the one guy to maybe take a look at. Joe Mantiply just came back from injury, and he's been an acceptable reliever in his time before. So another guy that could potentially do it. Nelson's kind of a multi-inning guy as well for them. So I think it's still Chafin, and I wouldn't really make a move unless you're in a deep league and you're just constantly speculating. Fairbanks is still out for Tampa Bay. Jason Adam has been filling in for the time being. Colin Poche has also been very good there. Ryan Thompson. Fairbanks was on the field Saturday playing catch before the game with the Yankees, so hopefully he's not out too long. But do you think maybe it's potentially a situation where, Tampa Bay is always a committee, but is Jason Adam worth rostering long term?
Yeah, Jason Adam, the Rays' problem with the it's not really a problem. It's a problem for fantasy
for
owners.
Us, yes.
Yeah, it's a problem for us because all their guys are good.
It really is. It kind of sucks.
Really just like they plant they plant like a hair from Raleigh Fingers' mustache in the ground and just water it, and Jason Adam just appears, or Colin Poche, or Fairbanks. Their closers, their relievers are great. So they're all kind of worth rostering in deeper leagues because they're all so good. In shallower leagues, it's probably Jason Adam is the only speculative guy I would go right now until Fairbanks is back. And then once Fairbanks is back in shallower leagues, I would move on from Jason Adam, even though he's been great.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much how I would go at it. Again, if you want to run Adam out there, I don't think that's the worst idea because it's Tampa Bay. So Fairbanks can come out in the 7th, 8th, 9th. It doesn't matter. He can just whenever they want him to come out, and that could leave Adam with some saves. And his numbers, again, have been very solid. K rate's not absolutely elite, but anything over 10K per 9 is always pretty solid for any pitcher. Moving on to waivers, Gray. Let's give the people some names to look at on as they're filling in their lineups this week, and then we'll get out of here.
Okay. So there's Lourdes Gurriel Jr. has been hitting. I think he had like 4 homers in the last 5 games, something like that, as of Monday. So he's been like hitting well. And, for people who don't remember or who are not paying that close attention, he was a guy who I really liked going into last year. Then he was injured and he had an off year. So while Lourdes Gurriel Jr. is someone who I would grab off of waivers in every league right now because he's hot, he actually could be a guy who could have long-term appeal. So that's one guy. Nick Senzel, I think, is probably going to be injured by the time I finish this sentence. Now he's still healthy according to what I'm reading on the news. But yeah, I like Nick Senzel for like average and a little bit of power, very very minute amount of power, but good on average. He's okay. He's fine. Hanser Alberto has been hot, and he's been playing, but Moncada is due back soon. And for whatever reason, the White Sox can never stop playing Moncada. That's somewhere in their their rider when they arrive to a new manager arrives to the clubhouse, they have a rider there that says must play Moncada. I don't understand it completely, but Alberto's been hitting though while he's playing, so that's a pickup. And then Taylor Walls has been hitting now for like 2 or 3 weeks, maybe longer. He's been hitting basically the whole year, so he's been good. And then Lamonte Wade Jr. has also been pretty good, for the Giants. He's been playing just about every day. And, when he's out of the lineup, it's probably for the best because they're facing a tough guy. So, yeah, Lamonte Wade Jr. has been decent. I've actually picked him up in some shallower leagues. He's been good.
Nice. Yeah, that's some names to keep an eye out. As always, thank you for listening. You can follow us wherever you get your podcasts, rate and review. You can watch us on youtube.com/razzballfantasy. If you have specific questions, you can leave them in the comments there, or find us on Twitter. I am at RazBeaton. Gray is the owner of the @RazBall account. Until next week, Gray, have a good one.
Late.